I've always worked with women and girls. Not just funding, but also people you're working with need to take you seriously, right? They need to take your authority seriously. I am 4 feet 10 inches, but I have a big personality.
Imagine transforming the lives of over 10,000 women and girls from socially disenfranchised communities. Picture mobilizing resources from global powerhouses to impact millions more across Asia and Africa. Today, we aren't just talking about change. We are sitting down with the visionary who makes it happen. Viewers, this is Mumtaz Herbal Product Presents Voice of Excellence, and today we are honored to hear from the gender and development expert, Sayeda Shagufe Hossain. Hello Apu, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Thank you for giving us the time. So today we want to talk about a lot of things, but first let's start from the beginning. So you have a very good academic career, and why did you choose to work with gender and development?
Actually, my undergrad degree was in marketing, so I didn't start out my academic life thinking that I would end up in gender and development. But in my third year in university, I realized that marketing isn't really my calling. I finished my degree, but I didn't like doing what I was doing, or I didn't like studying what I was studying. So then I shifted gears, and in my fourth year of university is when I founded my project. It became an organization after, but at the time it was a project to integrate madrasa students into the mainstream. We started with an English language tutorial program, and then life kind of happened from there. I joined BRAC. I started as an intern at BRAC, and then I became a staff at BRAC International. I led a 5-country portfolio, working with youth, adolescents across Asia and Africa. And because so much of my work involved gender, or a gender lens, I decided to focus on that. So I did my first master's from BRAC University, and then I really narrowed down because my work was so focused on identities of adolescent girls. I focused on getting a master's in education and society with a concentration in gender studies. That was my second master's from McGill, and then that's where, so far, that's been my academic journey.
Wow. So when you were doing all these academic degrees, like you have a double master's, did you still continue with your organizational activities and works?
I did. It was a lot of work. I used to say that I am in a long distance relationship with my job, and it's the hardest long distance relationship that I've been in. So when I went for my second master's, I remember I wouldn't sleep. So because work hours here and work hours there were different. So I would work throughout the night. I would wake up, study for a few hours, go take my classes, come back. And then there was all of these other household chores that come with living abroad. So I had to do all of that as well. But it was a wonderful time. I think I learned a lot. I grew a lot. I wrote some of my best poems at the time. And it's an interesting experience. I also learned to delegate at the time. You have to trust your team. You have to sort of trust the people that you're building with. And you learn a few hard lessons too about trust and who you can, delegate work to and all of that. So yeah, I did continue working. Also, I was able to tie in a lot of my work with my studies and vice versa. So I think it's a good idea to pursue your academics while you're working, because especially in our sector in development, you can feed a lot off of the two. Like you can feed one off of the other.
That is incredible. So I'm quite interested to know, you were saying that your undergrad was in marketing, right? So, and then you decided to work in the development sector. Was there any particular moment or experience that made you feel like, okay, this is my calling, I have to work with this?
I don't think so. I don't think there was a particular moment. I think when I was studying marketing, so as part of my marketing degree, I had to create a lot of project plans. And I think I learned that whether or not you believe in something, you have to sell it. And I realized I'm not really good at that. I have to believe in things to be able to sell it. So it's more of, I think, a matter of finding that balance of things that you do believe in. I am I think I am pretty purpose driven. I think I've always been quite purpose driven, or mission driven, maybe is the right way of putting it. I picked marketing because it was the easy thing to do. And then I realized halfway through that this is just not my thing. So I had to switch.
So scaling up, you have worked with some heavy-hitting global organizations like BRAC, WaterAid, Plan Internationals. So are there any key lessons that shaped your journey in the development sector?
My work has more or less always focused on like different organizations, but I've always worked with women and girls. I think empathy helps. That's kind of shaped my whole journey. I started working at BRAC when I was like fresh out of university, and I was very lucky to get the opportunity to work in multiple countries while living in Dhaka. So as I mentioned before, I was working across I was running a 5-country portfolio.
Wow.
Looking at a BRAC's adolescent and youth program, and this was just really, really early on in my career, and I think that really shaped how I look at the world. So the whole local to global connection that I am able to make quite easily now happened because of how my career started. And then from there, I spent a brief stint at WaterAid, after which I gave full time to my organization, Leaping Boundaries. And then in 2020, we had to close our organization because COVID happened, funding ran out, a lot of other mental health, personal challenges that I faced. So then after that, I moved to Canada. And again, I was really lucky to get the role at Plan International Canada, again, working with youth and adolescents. So I was able to bring in the same lens that I had in building my programs for Leaping Boundaries early on in my career at BRAC. I was able to bring that same lens to my work in Plan International Canada. Also, the first program I designed for Plan International Canada was something called the Solutions Lab, which incidentally focused on the Rohingya crisis. So it was very like that whole local to global connection. Whatever experience I had built in Bangladesh really served me even when I was working abroad. And then after 2 years at Plan International Canada, when I moved to serving a smaller organization, I was recruited as the executive director of a small organization called the Women's Center of Halton. And again, I ended up working with a lot of immigrants, a lot of refugees who had the same kind of struggles, if not the same, then at least similar kind of struggles to women and girls that I had worked with all my life. And my having an international background really helped. So yeah, I think the lesson would be own all parts of yourself.
Wow, that's a good one, and it sounds like a very incredible journey. So since your work has impacted a lot of people both across Bangladesh and Canada, and you have been working with so many different organizations, but it must haven't been easy, right? Like I have heard about the good parts of your work. So now I want to hear, what are the struggles and obstacles that you had to face to come this far?
It's difficult to talk about I think depending on where you are, your identities can create your barriers. It can also work to your advantage. Like I said, you have to own all parts of yourself. But when I'm working in Bangladesh, I think existing as a woman is challenging, comes with, all kinds of baggages. And I think when you go abroad to a country like Canada, where I think in terms of gender indicators, they're doing much better than other parts of the world. But then your identity and your experience becomes complicated by things such as the color of your skin and what languages you speak and what ethnic background you're coming from. I have to acknowledge that I come from a lot of privilege. I went to really good schools, both here and abroad, good schools. So my English sounds a certain way. I have good command over both languages, which I think as a result of my education, which I was also privileged to be able to afford. So all of that, so I think it's kind of unfair for me to talk about struggles in that way, given how much privilege I've been afforded. But yeah, struggles, like I said, like you're depending on where you are, and what identities you hold, there are things that will happen and you kind of have to just navigate them and deal with them.
But like being a woman and someone so young working in the development sector, like one thing you must face, which is getting funding. When you want to go to a sponsor, they would just ask, right? Like, you are so young and you are a girl. How would you pull off something this big? I'm sure these have happened with you.
I'm a lot older than I look, first of all. But yeah, I think that's also something which I didn't consider going into my last role as an executive director. What made it more complicated than it should have been was how young I looked. So I think it's a matter of not just funding, but also people you're working with need to take you seriously, right? They need to take your authority seriously. And I am 4 feet 10 inches, but I have a big personality. So I think
that really helps.
Yeah,
right?
that helps.
So beyond your direct field work, you are also a very powerful voice in the media. You write columns for very renowned national dailies. So how do you use your writing to influence like policy making conversations?
I don't know if I do. I think I write when I am angry, and I am angry a lot. A lot of my columns deal with gender issues, and there's a lot to be angry about when it comes to gender issues. So I don't write very regularly, or as regularly as I would like to write, but I do contribute a fair bit to the Daily Star. I've written for the Dhaka Tribune also. One of my pieces got published on The Wire during the July Revolution. So it's just how do I use it? I think I try to be as honest as I can. I try to do my research.
You write your heart out.
But I write my heart out, yeah.
Besides national, your voice resonates globally too. You are a TEDx speaker and also a fellow of a few number of reputed organizations. So how does that global exposure influence your perspective on leadership and development?
I mean, again, I was very lucky to have that exposure very early on in my life. So all of the things that you mentioned happened when I was in my mid to late 20s, which is about 15 years ago.
Whoa.
So I think the way it helped was, like I mentioned, making those global to local connections. And I think when you go to these fellowships, etc., the biggest asset or the biggest kind of gain that you come out with is the network that you make, right? And it exposes you to people from so many different backgrounds. I met this girl from the Hazara community in Pakistan, who I would have never met under normal circumstances. We met at a fellowship. I met a girl who self-identifies as somebody from Indian occupied Kashmir, right? And the way and the perspectives that you get from these folks, having met them, having learned a little bit from their lives, it helps you that you would otherwise never know, right? And it really helps you broaden your perspective and understand how tiny you are in the bigger picture of everything.
Indeed. So apart from your work life, what do you do in your leisure time? Like, what are the things that you like spending time with?
I like a lot of mindfulness-based activities. So I read a lot. I paint. I do yoga. I recently started dancing. So I started training in Kathak recently. And when I'm not writing angry columns, I write poetry.
Wow.
So yeah, that's pretty much.
Sounds very interesting, and I wish you all the best for your next upcoming works. So Shagufe, it has been an insightful conversation. I wish we could go on for longer, but sadly we do have a time limitation. But before I leave, there's a small gift from our sponsor, which is Mumtaz Herbal products. Hope this will be of use to you. And thanks to our lovely audience for always staying with us, and a special thanks to our sponsor Mumtaz Herbal products. So viewers, that's all for today. Until next time, stay inspired.